So welcome everyone. My name is Dr. Orlando Carreón, and I will be presenting the conversation today on relationships, relevance, and responsibility, supervising for equity and justice with intention. I have to also give credit to my partner in crime, Kim Holsberry, who is also part of this presentation, but she's going to help me with more of the logistics aspect of this presentation. So let's go ahead and get started. One more thing, this presentation is a story, right? It came together as a narrative. And so we're going to present some text to you, but also the context is just as important as the text, okay? So we're going to narrate some bullets and give you some hopefully valuable information, but also explain to you how this came about, okay? All right. So let's go to the next slide here. So the objectives for today is to use our collective efforts to provide our students and our partner communities with teachers that are prepared to address issues of anti-racism and justice in their communities. Before we get started, I was inspired by the fact that I saw my colleague, Curtis Acosta, who's going to be the keynote speaker tomorrow. And I was fortunate to go work with him and study with him and be in collaboration and in community with him. And I learned the concept of En La Quech from him and the maestros in Tucson, Arizona, when they try to close down the ethnic studies program. And I've incorporated this into my teachings. And we start every class this way. So I'm going to ask for your help in starting our presentation this way, in a way to ground us and to remind ourselves of the interconnectedness of our work, okay? So the way we're going to do this is I'm gonna start with tú eres mi otro yo, and then I'm gonna go like this, and everyone, if you can turn on your microphones, you'll say the English part and say, you are my other me. And I'll say the Spanish part, si te hago daño a ti, and you'll go with the next part, if I do harm to you, and we'll read it together, okay? So we'll do that. En La Quech is a Mayan philosophy that has existed for 7,000 years, and it translates into "You are my other me." And it wasn't into the Chicano movement in the 60s that Chicano playwright Luis Valdez turned it into a poem, a beautiful poem. And this is what you have in front of you. So thank you, Luis Valdez, for doing this. Okay, is everyone ready?
Sí.
All right. Gracias. All right, here we go. So, en La Quech, tú eres mi otro yo.
You are my other me.
Te hago daño a ti.
If I do harm to you,
Me hago daño a mí mismo.
I do harm to myself.
Si te amo y respeto.
If I love and respect you,
Me amo y respeto yo.
I love and respect myself.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you, Luis Valdez, for gifting us this beautiful poem and reminding us, right, that all our work is interconnected, right? And this also serves as a guiding light. And when we don't know what to do or we're facing difficult situations, we can ask ourselves, what is the En La Quech thing to do? Okay. So just to get started and in the chat, I'm going to ask us to get into breakout rooms in a second, but just to kind of warm up our thinking, our minds and our hearts, right, is starting with intention, right? What are some of your go-to lessons that you intentionally try to instill when you're out supervising student teachers? So this presentation is going to focus on that area when we're out in the field supervising, we're one-on-one with our student teachers. And what is it that you really want to instill? What are you intentional about in instilling? So we're going to use the chat for this. So if you can open up your chat and just write a few words. Kim, if you can help me monitor the chat, because I don't know if I can see it here. And just start reading out some of these things that you're seeing. It could be wisdom. It could be something that you learned through the hard knocks of life. It could be something teachery or TPE related, whatever you want. All things are okay. So go ahead. Thank you so much, Kristen. I see community circles, inclusivity, self-awareness, Guadalupe, gracias. Building respect and rapport. Jennifer Hinn says, what do you know about your students and how is this guiding your lessons? Beautiful. How are you engaging students? How are you sure they are growing? Helping students use their students' funds of knowledge. Absolutely. Building relationships, right? This is what this work is about. Relational trust. I'm going to ask Jane to say more about that. That looks really good. Validating children's ways of knowing, funds of knowledge, relationships, growth mindset, concept of humanitarianism, the power of our words. Yes. Relationships, again, get to know your students, their families, notice how they're doing, relationships. It's a whole world. We're going to cover the layers for you, your students, your community, awareness of students' demographic, sense of humor, critical, grace, relationships, make students matter, honoring cultural capital. All right, as you can see, as we're just scrolling through these great ideas, we see a lot of relationships. There's the notion of our humanity, of how we make this, how we talk about it in an intentional way, right? And so this is what today is about, is really to try to ask these critical questions, right? And bring it to the ideas of how do we talk about equity, anti-racism, justice in a very intentional way, where it's not just, oh, if it comes up, we'll talk about it, but making it central to our practice in pedagogy, okay? So this is what I would like to do for the next 5 minutes. I know it's not a long time, but we're gonna just get the conversation started. So how do you address issues of justice and anti-racism during your one-on-one supervision time? What is it that's working for you? Maybe it's a conversation starter. And what are some challenges, right? Let's just, as Lisa said, just try to be as honest and vulnerable here to say, hey, I have a challenge with this. And because there's a lot of wisdom in the room. And one of the things that when I was in my breakout room and talking with Edwina and Sheila, one of the joys of being in this special place is to be able to be in collaboration and learn from each other. So I'm hoping that we can open up our hearts and our minds to be able to be honest and just have these conversations, okay? So I'm gonna ask if Adria, if you can put us into groups of, I would say about, let me see, how many do we have here? So thank you, everyone. It looks like everyone's coming back. I forgot to mention, I have a Google Doc here that I'm putting up in the chat. And here's a space where I have all my presentation and the resources that I'm going to use for this presentation. So it's up there. In my group, there was already some sharing of resources that was being talked about. So this is a place where you can put that resource so that we could all have access to it. So just let's kind of go around the room. Was there let's hear from 2 or 3 folks about what were some of the things that they were building on, and maybe what are some challenges? I'm gonna ask for a brave volunteer.
I'll say something. I really am inclined. I'm so excited to look at the Learning for Justice website and look into the standards that are there and really spend some time exploring those and being able to utilize those.
Thank you, Jennifer. Lisa, go for it.
Hi. With our group, we were talking about the difference between having an anti-racist conversation or a conversation based on tensions that currently exist, a conflict that's arisen, and pushing towards this proactive, let's have it woven in, let's get there first, and trying to understand the wanting to share more about experiences so that we can understand where the institution we're with is down, where the classroom we're in is down. How do you, in real time, how do you make the statement or the want 3D? How do you breathe life into it so it's just a piece of the classroom? That transition, that that's been difficult in different spaces for all of us. Is that,
Right.
does that speak to, does that help? I don't know if that, and if I'm speaking out of turn, group, please let me know.
Thank you very much. No, it's great. Do we have one more, someone that wants to share? All right. Well, this is so appropriate because this is the way we started at UC Davis when I was at UC Davis last year. And we started just having these conversations, right? And let me share my slide here so we can get back to this presentation. Okay, do you see a slide that shows how? Okay, so we started having these conversations, right? And one of the things that really, it was during the time of the pandemic, during the, you know, the flare up that's been going on in this country for hundreds of years, but really came to a head a few years ago. And we felt a sense of urgency, right? And we felt that we wanted to do something, but we felt that the institution was very slow in catching up to where we were, right? And what we wanted to do and address in our classes and with our students and in supervision, right? So we just said, you know what, we got to start meeting. We can't wait. And so we had this sense of urgency and this intentionality of getting together as a group. So we started meeting every Friday at 10 a.m. since August of 2020. And we met every other week consistently for an hour. And in those conversations we started with something similar to what we just did right now. We asked questions about what is it that we're doing well as a group, right? And then we also asked how can we be the program that we want it to be, right? So we started just getting these ideas and writing them down in Google Docs. And this little frame that you see on the side is we started putting things in bubbles. Okay, so-and-so said this, so-and-so said this, and we started just grouping these ideas. And one of the things that came up from all these little bubbles is that one of the themes that came out was that everyone was really caring and brought up the importance of relationships and being in relation often. Okay, so that became one of our pillars. So we were able to identify this is something that we care about and that we feel we're doing well. Let's start with this bright spot. So then we started looking for articles to really to help us understand the notion of relationships. And we found an article by Jeff Duncan Andrade and Alison Titian Cubales on their community responsive framework. So here we are, faculty members, lecturers. We invited academic senate folks. Most of the folks there were supervisors. And we were reading articles together, okay? And we said, by this week, we're gonna read this article, and we read this one, right? And so as one of the things that Evelyn Young said, and Dr. Evelyn Young said in the group was, you know, how do we train, right? These important issues, how do we train supervisors, right? So here we were organically training ourselves, right? Reading together and trying to understand these concepts at a deeper level as supervisors in this diverse faculty and staff, right? So this is the three domains that this article really talks about. And here is, a synopsis of each domain. And I'm just gonna ask one person, three people from the chat here, if you can take one of these relationships and read it out loud. Okay, so if we can just have three folks put their names in the chat to volunteer to read, that would be great. And if Kim, go ahead and just pick the readers, please, that volunteer. And the first person will read about relationships.
Kathy Howard, thank you.
Wow, I guess I was quick on the draw there. Okay, so relationship domain. Relationships domain consists of qualities of a community responsive educator that is committed to building meaningful relationships with, I can only see part of the text. Sorry, I'm kind of missing the left-hand side of it. Oh, there we go. Committed to building meaningful relationships with students and families, understanding that students do not care what we know until they know that we care. Relationships are rooted in humanization, empathy, and love. They promote intra-connected and interconnected relationships where all students, especially those who have been marginalized, feel valued and part of something bigger than themselves. Caring relationships instill hope in young people as they serve as both medicine and armor for healing and future threats.
Oops, thank you so much.
Edwina, thank you.
Okay. Relevance domain. The relevance domain consists of qualities of a community responsive educator that is committed to developing curriculum and pedagogy that connects to students' daily lives, their communities, their families, and their ethnic, cultural, and linguistic histories. It is about being culturally rooted, placing high value on indigenous culture and the cultures of communities of color. It is about providing cultural medicine and also critiquing systems that have created toxicity in our lives. Culturally and community affirming schools and classrooms increase knowledge of self and agency, as self-esteem is the window of self-actualization and increased hope levels.
Thank you.
Myra.
Responsibility domain. The responsibility domain consists of qualities of a community responsive educator that is committed to understanding and responding to the wide range of needs, social and academic, that can impact a student's capacity to be at their best. This responsiveness keeps in mind that attentiveness to the well-being of the student is simultaneously about the individual student and the wellness of the community, including, for example, community actualization. An individual student cannot succeed if the student next to them is failing. Hurt people tend to hurt people, and people that are well tend to heal people. So the wounds of an individual student are treated as the wounds of the entire classroom and school community, because that fact is inescapable if we are truly interconnected. Ergo, healing a student's wounds heals the classroom, school, and community entire. All boats must rise, because it is all of us or none of us, and the classroom and school shall be built accordingly.
Thank you so much for that. Great read, everyone. And as you can see, this article was powerful and really named, described some of these domains in detail. So our next challenge was, well, how do we bring these domains, into our practice, right? What would it look like, right? And as we're going, through this meeting with this groups of folks every week, we started building, right? And we started building ideas, and the energy was beautiful, and we laughed and we shared, and we had so many great ideas. And one of the things that came about was that we needed to create a speaker series. So here is something that we created as well, is the Humanizing Pedagogy speaker series. And we brought out Goldie Mohammed and to have a beautiful conversation with Curtis Acosta. If you haven't listened to this, it's on YouTube, and I also put it in the list of resources, but it's a beautiful conversation, and they taught our community about their perspectives, right? Goldie from her work in cultivating genius, and Curtis Acosta as one of the master teachers and organizers in the closing of ethnic studies in Tucson, Arizona. So we learned from them, and we felt that we brought their ideas into our work. And this is how we did it. So we asked the question, what can the 3 R's look like at UC Davis teacher education, right? So the relationships, we were focused on affirming and positive language. We wanted to make sure that we were intentional, that when we go out and supervise our students, that we were hearing it. We were hearing the affirmations, the positive language, right? And we actually got granular into saying, like, this is what it sounds like, right? And you'll see that in a little bit. Intentional relationship building. Do we see it? Do we feel it? Is it in the room, right? Can we identify it, right? Can we write it in our notes when we see a beautiful interaction between student and teacher, right? The idea of making students feel seen and heard, right? In terms of the relevance piece, what we did is we brought in Goldie Muhammad's stuff to help us really dig into that, because there's a lot of different frameworks when it comes to culturally responsive teaching. But we felt that Goldie Muhammad's framework really spoke nicely to this area, and also in a way that our multiple subject students can really take a bite out of it, right? So she talks about identity development and the importance of identity development. And for those who are not familiar with Goldie Muhammad's work, she takes the pursuits that Black societies in our countries were doing, right, and earlier on in the late 20th century, and she really says, hey, our people have been doing this for a long time. Let's learn from them, right? And she brought these pursuits and turned it into a pedagogy, right? She talks about the pursuit of skills that we were learning. They were learning skills, right? Skills can translate to the standards, right? That what we're asking teachers to teach, right? She also talks about intellect, wisdom, and educación, right? What are our students becoming wiser about, right? What are they becoming more worldly about, right? It's not just about learning a certain algebraic equation, but what is this teaching them in terms of a community impact? What are they becoming wiser about? Or another way to say it is, what is the lesson within this lesson, right? Criticality, she talks about the importance of criticality, and wherever we talk about criticality with the capital C is different than critical thinking. Criticality with the capital C means that we're talking about oppression, okay? So oppression is in the room, okay, when we're talking about criticality. And finally, she talks about joy, the importance of this stuff should be fun, right? We should be laughing. We should be learning in a humanizing and joyful way, okay? And finally, the responsibility component was, as Jeff and Allison say, is that the wellness is interconnected, right? When I'm well, you're well. When I hurt, you hurt, right? And so what would it look like to develop this community advocacy, being responsible to each other, really bringing in the idea of Inlakesh into our classrooms, right? Are we seeing it, right? Where is it thriving? Where isn't it thriving, right? So this law of interconnectedness is really the foundation of all of this, right? Okay. So as a group, we said, okay, the first thing we have to do is we have to develop a lesson plan template. And so we started working on a lesson plan template. And as you can see, this is the top portion of the lesson plan template. And Goldie Muhammad's framework is on top. And what we did is we embedded this GM1, GM2, as you see in the top, within the lesson plan, right? So this lesson plan template became not only a template, but more of a rationale, is for our student teachers. Before you start lesson planning, let's think about the greater purpose of this lesson. How are you going to, deal with anti-oppression? How are you going to address it? How will your teaching help students learn something about themselves, their community, and the world beyond themselves, right? Diversity of thinking. How is this lesson a step in toward making the world a better place? We really wanted them to be able to answer this question. So this document is a resource for you to have. We're not going to spend time on this document because we're going to focus on the supervision part, but I wanted you to see that we were embedding it in everything that we did. These 3 R's, the Goldie Muhammad, the relevance piece was in the lesson plan template. Okay. So what do humanizing relationships look like in student teaching, right? Going out to the field when we're supervisors and we have our hat on and we're one-on-one with the student, observing classrooms and observing their practice. What would a supervision template focused on the 3 R's look like? And as a community, this is what we came up with. So if you can just look at the top, you see relationships domain on top, right? Relevance domain and responsibilities. And so we started mapping the TPEs to this, and we're like, oh, TPE1 is engaging, making an effective environment really maps on really well. We didn't want the TPEs to force it in this. We said, look, if the TPEs don't make it onto here, it's okay, right? What we want to know is we want to be honest about relationships, relevance, and responsibility. We wanted that to take the lead, okay? So TPE 1 and 2 was in relationships. TPE 3 and 4 mapped up nicely to relevance. TPEs 1, 2, and 6 mapped out nicely to responsibility. And as you can see, TPE 5 on assessment did not make it on this. And we were intentional about that. We didn't want to force it, right? But we knew that TPE 5 on assessment mapped on really well to the lesson plan template and rationale that I just showed you. So we were okay with leaving 5 out of here because we knew that it was in the lesson plan template and rationale. So so what I would like us to do for the majority of our time together is really kind of dive into this document. This was put together with Senate faculty, lecturers, supervisors, and it took us about 6 weeks to develop this, right? Once we thought we had it done, we went back to it, no, it's not right yet. And so it took us a while, and we want to share it with you, right? And one of the things that came out of this, let me give you some context of this. We thought that the relationship piece would map on really nicely in the first quarter. You see Davis is on the quarter system, is when they're just starting out there on their sites, they're really focusing on relationships. And so we focused on relationships on the first quarter. Then the second quarter, when they start thinking about their ETPA, they start writing lesson plans. We said, okay, the relevance, we're going to focus on the relevance in the second quarter, right? And then relationships in the third quarter was really timely because now they're done with the ETPA. They did the 2-week takeover, and now they can start really thinking. They have the brain space to start thinking about their own classrooms. So some of the questions that we asked them is, okay, now you saw the ethos of this particular resident teacher that you're working with. What is community going to look like in your space? Close your eyes. This is one of the things that I do with my students. Close your eyes. What is your classroom going to be about, right? And so I really made them think about it. I had them write that down and write it. We wrote it down, and we also put it in their induction program, right? So they didn't forget, like, this is what my classroom is going to be about, right? So this is the way we kind of laid it out. So what I would like to happen is I'm going to split you into groups of, I think, let's do 6 groups, if that's okay, so that the share out can kind of be short, right? So groups 1 and 2 are going to focus on relationships, look at that strand and kind of see, I think I have questions here. How can the supervision template be useful to you, right? What modifications would you make? What's missing, right? It's not perfect, right? This is for our context, so you got to make it work for your context. And maybe what questions do you have, right? And see if we can answer these questions together. Okay, so groups 1 and 2 are going to dive into the relationship aspect of this document. Groups 3 and 4 are going to dive into the relevance piece, Goldie Muhammad's piece, and groups 5 and 6 are going to really talk and dive into that responsibility piece. Okay, so if we can split up into groups of 6, and let's spend 10 minutes of this on this document, and then return in 10 minutes. Okay. Thank you so much.
They're all back.
All right. Welcome, everyone. I hope that that time together was useful. That's what I love about this space and the C-Turn space that we're creating, is this ability to be in conversation with each other. So I'm going to share my screen so we can look at this diagram together. And just wanted to start off with group 1 and 2. Would you all like to kind of lead a conversation? What is something that you can take from this? What would you add to this? How would you modify it? Okay, what is a nugget that you're taking with you? So I'll let the groups number 1 and 2 start the conversation. So I always tell my students, not everyone at once, please.
I was in group 1.
Okay.
And we had a conversation, and we said we loved the questions that were asked. It's a good entry point for discussion to get our students to think about how they're building relationships with their students. We really like this as an entry point for having deeper conversations about that. We did kind of look at the last question, how did you make your students feel seen and heard? And we discussed about, really trying to look at the student perspective, because we could be doing all these things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the student is connecting with what we're trying to do or building that relationship. Mm-hmm. So, I forget which one, Jennifer. Jennifer mentioned, maybe we could do a deeper dive into that by looking or asking questions from the student perspective. Like, how do we know that we got appropriate feedback when we did these? I see you, I hear you. Did the students smile? Did they have a continuing conversation? Because we could be checking off these things from a box, but that doesn't mean that the student is necessarily connecting. So how can we help student teachers to think about it from a student perspective?
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful comment. Thank you so much. And as you can see, this was kind of what it was like to be in a group with our group, right? Like every time someone new came, they brought in their perspective and added to this document. So thank you, Kone, for adding to this document and providing your brilliance here. So thank you. Who else?
I'm Kristen from group 2, and I was the note taker. So I'm gonna just go ahead and read what I captured from the group, if that's okay. We talked about a lot about naming, but the group mentioned how the prompts were especially useful at the beginning of the school year. Also discussed how building and applying the relationship knowledge that we gain into the lesson plan. So really reinforcing that with the candidate. Now that you've built this relationship with your students, how are you applying it? And what evidence is there that it's being used in the lesson plan to help guide your instruction? Talking about names and using them correctly. For example, asking the students, what would you like me to call you? And then calling the students that, modeling it so that then other students in the classroom are also using that name correctly with the student. I have a what's in the name resource that I'll put on the document and share with other people too. But going back to those names, it was mentioned that those personal connections allow for growth. That removal of the flight or fight that a student might have when they're not feeling valued, accepted, or heard in a class. And then that because you're modeling and you've shown interest and want to know about the students, they have a sense of safety in that classroom and are more likely to learn and let down their guard a little bit and let you into their lives. Also mentioned how it's useful, this information with the candidates, using it at the beginning of the school year when you're having those triad meetings with the cooperating teacher and the teaching candidate, sharing a little bit about yourself and making it, modeling that as well, and making those connections and finding connections with your candidate so that you're also building those trusting relationships with them. And then a question was there a trial run for the document in the field? And if so, what evidence did you gather from that and how was it modified?
Great question. I'll just answer that question now and then we'll move on to the relevance piece. But so yeah, so a few of us did try it and we got some just qualitative feedback, right? So one of the ways that, for example, is how to use it, right? One of the things that I did with my students is I copied and pasted these questions and I sent it to them via text. And I said, looking forward to your observation this coming Tuesday. Here are some questions that we're going to be focusing on, and looking forward to seeing you in person, right? And so I just sent it to them via text, and the responses I would get from text, these are great, thank you, right? So those were the initial kind of like feedback from students. But then when I went out and visited to the site, one of the teachers had the students come back from recess, and the students came in, and she just stopped and she just said, "How are you doing? How was recess? What happened out there?" And students were like, all students rose their hands and wanted to contribute. Like, so she was using this document to check in, right? Just a quick check-in. And what she told me was just like, that your questions made me realize I got to be doing more of this. Recess is really important for kindergartners, right? I got to be checking in with them to see how things are doing. So that was just an example of how I was using the document and some of the feedback that I was getting from teachers, from teacher candidates. So let's move in the interest of time to the relevance piece. Let's spend about 2 minutes on this. If we can have one of the folks from groups 2 or from 3 and 4, say what they're getting from this section or what they found valuable or what needs to be added here.
I'll speak for our group. We talked about like not knowing what the teachers were getting before they came to our program. So, you know, without that, it made it kind of difficult of how we kind of discuss this. For me, I'm coming actually from an induction standpoint. So I would love to incorporate this, but I don't know what they've already gotten. So that kind of like that missing link and how I can include this without repeating the same exact stuff, or, you know, to more expand upon what I can help. But for me, first of all, I need to read the book, you know, to understand it, and then kind of go from there. I don't know if anyone else in my group has something additional that I might have missed.
No, I just wanted to add that it just seemed like in the screen section in the here in our group, it's more how do you, the evidences for this seem to be more challenging than the blue and the purple in the other groups. Yeah, the responsibility of relationships. I mean, the evidence seemed to be a little bit more abstract.
Yeah, that's great feedback. Thank you so much. And one of the, we thought that the relevance piece was, since it was embedded in their lesson plan templates, right? So we can say, we can use their lesson plan template, say, you said you wanted to do X, Y, and Z. What evidence do you have that you did X, Y, and Z, right? Whatever that may be. So we use that with the lesson plan template together. But that was a little bit more, they had to think about this one a little bit more. They had to prepare for this one a little bit more, right? So yes, thank you very much, Edwina. Let's move on to the responsibility one. Since we have 3 minutes left, can the next group, groups 5 and 6, what did you all talk about?
Let's see. I was in group 5. I don't know if someone else wants to add to this, but one of the things we talked a lot about creating that community within the classroom, and that it's kind of interconnected with relationships. But that sense of how you effectively create a community, establish that classroom community and maintain it so that it's a healthy community, healthy and safe, as it says here. That it seemed more like it might help to have it throughout the year rather than leaving it till the third quarter, but very, very interconnected with the relationship piece as well.
Thank you.
Others want to add to that?
We talked about how students can participate across all the children in the room, from those who tend to be the first to speak up and repeatedly want to be heard, to those who are needing more time or more shy, need more time to process, to assure that there's total participation across all children in the classroom, and that it's looked upon as an element of social justice, because we want everyone to be heard and to be recognized as well. So through that opportunity to speak and be heard, we give kids that opportunity to be relevant to their classmates. I also mentioned the importance of music, art, dance as a means for kids to actually interconnect with one another. When you touch somebody, for example, in square dancing or any other form of folk dancing, you come in contact with that person in a meaningful way that can break down barriers. And that, in my experience across classrooms, I see very little music, very little dance embedded within the curriculum. And I feel that it would help a great deal with the interconnectedness piece.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Walt. Appreciate you. I'm just looking at the time now. Edwina, do you have 30 seconds? Go for it.
It is only 30 seconds. I just want to say that they just mentioned community, and I didn't want to say anything earlier, but in your section and relevance that said, how will you cultivate happiness? I was thinking it should have been community, because we have other you can cultivate happiness, but this is a school and there's a lot of other stakeholders too. And it seemed that it's more measurable and you can get evidence if you're trying to cultivate community. I don't know. That's just the thought.
Thank you. Thank you. I just, first of all, I just thank you all again for your brilliance and And I love the way you kind of, we started making this document our own, right? And hopefully you can take it back to your context and make it useful, whether you work in induction or with working with teachers, make it speak to your community. And finally, just the importance of our work, right? Dolores Huerta, who's behind me, she reminds me that every moment is a chance to change the world. Let's be intentional. Let's ask these questions, and let's get our teachers really talking about this work in a systematic way. So thank you all for your time.